Nigeria, by extension, Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Ahead of the 2027 general elections, Nigeria's House of Representatives has proposed a bill that would impose penalties on eligible voters who fail to cast their vote. Introduced in March 2025, the bill recommended 100,000 naira fine and a 6-month jail term for non-compliance. The move is aimed at addressing voter apathy. Meanwhile, the 2023 elections recorded the lowest turnout in Nigeria's democratic history. Although 93.5 million Nigerians were registered, only 25.3 million voted, about 27% of eligible voters. Proponents of the bill say mandatory voting could boost civic participation, but critics argue that it raises concern about enforcement and individual rights. It's another episode on your favorite primetime show. My name is Messi Ebopo, and today we will be discussing the bill which proposes a 6-month jail term for non-voters as we inch closer to 2027. I would probably think that 2027 is very far, but it is what it is, and then we have to talk about this. Our guest is going to be Sir Leonard Anyangu, a constitutional lawyer, a member of the Chatham House, international policy expert and resource person to the African Union. He will join us much later. Now, remember that Ways is all about you. You are the why in the Ways, so be part of the conversation every single day and add your voice to the discussion. Head to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV, hit the subscribe button, like, share, and invite your friends to join the show now. Now, when I open up the phone lines, I would really love to hear what you have to say on this topic. As always, ponder on my quote for today. A person who has attained 18 years who refused to perform his civic duty to vote commits an offense. We'll delve much into this, that's later. But first off, let's go on a short break, and when we return, I would definitely bring you up to speed with my news interest. Please stay with us. Welcome back. It's your favorite primetime show, Ways, right here. If you just tuned in, today we have amazing lineup of conversation. But just before then, let's bring you up to speed with what my interest of the news is today. So, yeah, I found something very interesting. As a matter of fact, I told myself that we'll just keep all of the conversation very positive. But can we really stay just the whole day positive without any negative news? Well, first off, this is quite exciting, although there might just be one or two questions. The governor of Ebonyi State has increased monthly salaries and allowance of newly recruited medical doctors from 150,000 naira to 500,000 naira. Now, stating that better pay enables doctors to perform effectively. According to him, he said they deserve it, and this would also help them support their families and perform, in a very, very optimal way. However, is quite commendable. I mean, I must say kudos. But the question now here is this a policy statement or is this a plan? Now, if this is a plan, is there a step-by-step, plan or process for implementation? Because sometimes out of excitement, it's also very possible that these policies or pronouncements are being made. So we don't really know. I mean, I don't know, but this could actually pass for a policy statement. It was just a pronouncement, unless there's a plan. It's already been planned out, and there are modalities to implement all of this. If not, it's just an excitement. But beyond that, because usually the conversation is about increase of salaries, and now this cuts across board. But let's look at the doctors in Ebonyi State, doctors in Nigeria. Do doctors in Ebonyi State and others receive additional incentive for working in rural communities? Now, are there benefits such as health insurance, housing allowance, or transportation support? I don't know. Is the working condition for doctors in the state and other states conducive? Now, these are some of the questions that are begging for answers. That's one of my interests or news interests for today. Now, another one is quite controversial. If you are very swift with social media, then you probably would have seen the hashtag. Not necessarily that hashtag, but if you check Lagos smells or filthy Lagos, that will pop up, and there's a lot of conversation going on. Now, the Lagos state government has refuted the claims on social media that the foul smell, that Lagos, the foul smell and mosquito plague the city. And now this is following the backlash of a controversial podcast appearance by an online personality. He goes by the name Scott Igumo, saying that Lagos is smelling. Now, what now happened was, following this disclaimer by the government, the Commissioner for Environment, to be very precise, there's this whole post that went on, a recording of different parts of Lagos, just showing all of the deaths. Like you can see on the screen now, the gutters, the drainages, the waste, and what have you. That's actually going on. It's going on. So if you check that. And so the conversation is very robust. So on the one hand, you have the government saying that, hey, Lagos is not smelling. There's a lot of defense on the part of the government. And on the side of the people are saying, hey, the government have actually failed. The fact that you've come out to want to defend this, making comparison with New York and what have you, does not make sense. But here's what I would say at this point in time. Is Lagos filthy? Is Lagos smelling? You have seen the pictures, you live here, and the truth is, who is responsible for all of this? It's a collaborative effort. Yes, Lagos is what it is today because we have all contributed to making Lagos what it is today. So if Lagos is smelling, you and I are responsible. The government is also not left out. And this is not a whole brief for the government, but to say that because governance is a collective responsibility, we're all responsible. So on the one hand, government has failed in her own responsibility of waste management, enforcing laws and ensuring and educating the people about how to dispose their waste properly. And on the other side, or on the other hand, we have also failed as a people. And I will stay on this particular one because we have been so irresponsible with our environment. Now you need to see how we dispose. Ask yourself, I mean, I don't need to ask you, but do ask yourself, what do you do with your waste when you're on transit, you're in your car? What do you do with it? The bottle of water, the sachet of water, what do you do with it? The sachet of biscuit, the sweets, all of the things that you consume, how do you manage, how do you dispose it? Because if you really want to look at it, I don't think that the governor is responsible for all of the waste that we have in our drainages. Yes, we have a fact that we don't have enough drainages. The drainages are blocked because now we're experiencing the rain, and which is normally when the rain comes, it's always flooded. Time will not allow me to just continue with this conversation, but it can just be a conversation for another day. But the truth is, we can't only blame the Lagos state government for where Lagos is right now. So if you say Lagos is smelling, you are really responsible for the smelling, the foul smell, whatever it is that you target, you are responsible. If you say Lagos is filthy, you are responsible because how do you manage your waste? Sometimes you see people, it's raining and then they just carry all of their waste tossed in the gutter. That's a very irresponsible behavior. And what do you expect? Water will always find its way, it will smell. Let's move away from that. Now, this particular news or headline is heartbreaking for me. And when I saw it, I really did have some sort of, panic attack, and I felt differently. And I struggled on how to bring the story to you. But if you don't already know, somewhere in Oyo State today, to be very... We are live at the... Okay, guys. I'm sure that we can just, put out that video if we really have it. Now, a very sad incident has happened, which has generated the hashtag End Police Brutality. Again, we're here talking about police brutality. The incident that happened at the Gbagi Market Road in Oyo State, where police, it was reported, and we have also seen videos and reports on social media where the police were chasing, to say purportedly, Yahoo boys, because I can't say if they are Yahoo boys at the end of the day. What's the verification? How did you arrive at the fact that they are Yahoo boys, right? So the report says that the police in Oyo State were in pursuit. They were pursuing people that suspect to be Yahoo boys, and in the course of the pursuit, decided to open fire, and a stray bullet fired by a police officer in a pursuit of a suspect hit and killed a student. Now, the name of the school, as at the time of this report, has not been disclosed, the name of the student involved, but looking at the picture, you could identify that he's actually a male. I do not have the name and other, information, but I'm sure that by the end of tomorrow, we'd have all of this information. Now, it was revealed that the boy was on a motorcycle with his father and twin brother when the incident struck. This is really, really sad. But before we go on that short break, I like to say this. It is really very sad. I mean, since I saw this news, I have been pondering, I have been thinking about how the parents of this young lad would be faring at this moment. I have thought about it. I have painted a picture in my mind, and I cannot feel the pains of the parent. I really can't see. I can only imagine it, but I don't know what it would feel like. I don't know how they feel like. But I mean, if you've ever lost someone, if you've ever lost a child, then you can imagine the pain that this parent will be going through. But it brings me back to the conversation. We've been here again. Hashtag End Police Brutality. There was this protest. And has police brutality ended? But let's come back to, let's have this conversation now. Every organization, every institution has a code of conduct. Code of conduct, a procedure that governs her activity. As a country, we have the Constitution, which guides the activity of the citizenry and those who are calling the shots. Then again, if you look at on what basis should the Nigerian police or a police officer open the fire, I'm really trying to go back, to see if we can look at the acts. Now, in Nigeria, the police are legally allowed to open fire only under strict and limited conditions, typically as a last resort. This is according to the Nigerian Police Force Order of 237 and International Human Rights Standards of Police. Now, there has to be an imminent threat to the police officer or to the people around. That's number one. There also have to be, it must be very necessary. Like your life has to be at risk. The suspect has to be a threat. There has to be a threat. I mean, time will not permit us to go through all of that. So I really want to ask, the police officer and men of the Nigerian police, for every other time you open fire, what exactly is it? Were you under imminent threat? How did you perceive these guys? At what point did you run into conclusion that they were Yahoo boys? Now, if they were Yahoo boys, were they really a threat to you at the time? Was there a threat to your life? Was there a threat to the people? Let's even look at the issue of Hush Puppy. Hush Puppy, who was apprehended in Dubai by the Dubai police. Was it a case that the police in Dubai was chasing Hush Puppy all over the place? But it was about intelligence. But I'll leave it at that. We take a short break, and when we return, we'll just head straight to the crux of the conversation. Please stay with us.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, it's your favorite primetime show right here. And my name is Messi Bokpo. Today, we're talking about the bill that was proposed, it's still the second reading by the House of Representatives, and its fate will depend on the outcome of further deliberation and public input. And I feel like this is what we're having at this point in time, because as soon as it kills, the second reading gets to the third reading, it gets the approval, then we're done for. However, not everyone has agreed with the proposed bill. Some critics are arguing that it's compulsory voting would infringe on individual rights and fail to address the root causes of electoral disinterest. Now, to make sense of all of this, shed more light, is Leonard Ayongo, a constitutional lawyer, a member of the Chatham House, international policy expert, resource person to the African Union. Thank you so much for joining me today, Leonard.
Good evening, Messi, and thank you for having me.
All right, good evening, and thank you for being here today. It gladdens my heart to have this conversation with you. But straight on, I'd like to ask you, how would you describe this proposed bill by members of the House of Representatives, 6-year jail term for non-voters?
Well, I think I would rather want us to look at the holistic intention of any speech. For any bill or law or an act of the National Assembly or the state law.
Sir Leonard, can I come back to you again? We seem to be having some distortion. I'm sure that it might just be the internet or the network, whatever that is again. So I will put my question to you, and I'm hoping that we can get you clearly. My question to you is, how would you describe this bill that's been proposed by the members of the House of Representatives, and it's scaled through the second reading?
That we look at intention of any bill or law, because the intention of the legislators are things that we have to look at. In this instant case, what is the intention? The intention, obviously from the promoters of the bill, is to enable a lot of persons participate in the voting process. It is also true that over the years, we have very low turnout of voters. If you want to use the percentage, out of 100%, sometimes 20% of voters come out to vote. So that is a challenge. And in that instance, I think the promoters, they say that is the reason why they are coming with this bill. But the practicability or the acceptability of that proposal is what is on the table. Now, the intention is good, to allow voters participation, to allow people to participate, allow high turnout of election participation so that a large number of persons can vote. And so we can have true representatives instead of this very low turnout. But when you propose that if you don't vote, you go in for 6 months imprisonment, or you pay a fine of 100,000 naira. Nigerians be very wary of that. And then we look at the constitutional implication of that. Does that violate our constitution? Does that violate the right to choose, the right to abstain from voting? So these are the issues that is on the table. Now, again, what we have is that this is just the second stage, and I want to call on all Nigerians that are against this bill to actively participate in the public hearing, because that is where public input will be taken. Most times we criticize, we do not participate in this public hearing. So public hearing is very key, that we participate and object to this kind of bill or amend this kind of bill. So that is the stage. And I urge Nigerians to look out for the public hearing and participate robustly so that we can rub our minds together.
Okay, we will definitely come back to this conversation of how Nigerians can participate in the public hearing of this bill. Now, but I'd like also to, ask you, being that you're a legal practitioner, is it a crime as a citizen of Nigeria not to vote in a national or state election?
We have civic duty. All Nigerians, all citizens have civic duty to participate. What is civic duty? Civic duty is for you to participate in the functionality of your community. You are expected to participate in the welfare or decision making of your community. And in this instance, if you are 18 years and you have registered to vote, you should vote. Analyze lack of voting or abstinence from voting. But like I said, the intention of the legislator, like they will campaign, the promoters of the bill will say, imagine a million will come and decide the fate of Nigerians. That is very, very poor. So the intention may be fantastic, but the approach is the problem. Because I do not subscribe. Let me be on record that if I do not vote or anybody do not vote, you will not ask you to pay 100,000 or go to 6 months imprisonment. That would be taking it to the extreme.
Well, some have actually described this particular proposed bill. Again, I would have to state that it has killed the second reading as jumping the gun, giving the widespread of disenfranchisement and distrust in the system, especially when we look at the last election, which was in 2023. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, just like I said, you agree with me that we have very low voters turnout. It's very, very low, and it's not encouraging at all. If you look at countries that practice compulsory voting, mostly in the Latin American countries and principally in Australia, there's a high level of voters education. In Australia, if you do not vote, you'll be fined $20 or thereabouts. But then, so there are advantages and disadvantages of compulsory voting. But the problem we have in Nigeria, what is the reason for voters' apathy? Voters' apathy, why are people not interested in voting? A lot of Nigerians will say that their votes don't count. And we talk about politics, we do not talk about governance. In other words, we play politics all through the 4 years tenure. For me, I keep saying that politics is a vehicle and governance is the destination. So when Nigerians will see good governance, people will naturally come out to vote. But I urge Nigerians that if you abstain and not participate in the process, you are not helping the system. You are not helping the matter. So, but I do not want to subscribe to criminalizing that. If you other ways, we should embark on aggressive voters education. That is very key. And the reason why people should participate in voting, and then the voting process has to be very transparent and easy, like electronic voting. Like in Nigerian Bar Association, nobody goes to any polling booth. We have electronic voting that people have argued that it can be tied to our BVN. We can vote from the comfort of our home. There's no need for holidays with security men being posted everywhere. So the use of technology has to be explored. So those are the areas that we should look at. Canvas for voters' education, canvas for the use of technology, and then the issue of if I do not vote, you will give me 6 months imprisonment will not arise. And I think that at the public hearing, some of us will participate very robustly and argue our case.
Yeah, I mean,
do not criminalize this kind of aspect of the bill.
All right. For the country that you've made reference to, you talked about Australia and compulsory voting. What exactly is Australia doing in her electoral system that made them to? I mean, because it has to take a lot of work to be done before you could say, hey, you have to vote compulsorily and all of the fines. So what exactly do you think is happening in some of those countries? What have they done in the electoral system that they have the guts, if you want to say, we are saying that there has to be compulsory voting and those who do not vote would have to pay a fine?
Of course, there's a high voters' education. There's accountability in governance. People participate. Look, in Australia, for instance, you do not just vote and go and sit down. The elected public officials or even appointed officials will be held accountable for all their actions. And that is why you are just like a servant to the people, not like a demigod in some part of Africa, especially in Nigeria. Like you are the Methuselah, you know everything, the man with the highest wisdom. No. Now, because of that highest level of voters' education, because people have taken their neck to vote, they will follow through the voting. How do you follow through this voting? It's to hold public officials accountable. And that is why institutions in Australia, for instance, work. Because you have a very low level of rigging, if there's even rigging at all. Elections are conducted in a very peaceful manner. It's not a court-sanctioned election like we have in Nigeria. All of us go to tribunal to decide the outcome of election. It's not done. And so you have those. So these are the indices that I said earlier that it has to be on the table. We must have to fix these indices. We must have to fix these indices before we can move to the next step, which is making it compulsory. In other words, I think that we have not gone to that position where we can make comment.
All right. We seem not to be having a very smooth connection from your end, Sir Leonard. But however, we're hoping that as we progress, this is going to be beautiful. Don't forget, if you tuned in and you're still listening, would like to hear what you have to say, remember you can join the conversation by sending an or WhatsApp to the number 081-8038-4663. I take that again. SMS or WhatsApp to the number 081-8038-4663. The phone lines are also open. You can call the number 070-2500-77 and 49, 070-2500-77 and 49, 070-2500-77 49 or 2424 and 20, 070-142424 and 20. Let's hear what you have to say. It's okay that Leonard has also talked about the issue of we having public hearing, because there has to be public inputs, the entire process, there has to be deliberation before it gets out to the point that it is. Leonard, are you still with us? All right.
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay,
very clearly.
maybe.
I don't know.
Okay, great. If you can hear me clearly now.
I can hear you very clearly. Yes, I can.
Okay, good now. So, now, let's also talk about the impact of all of this before we get back to talking about the public hearing and participation. Unfortunately,